Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. And, Mr Deputy President, in understanding the gravity surrounding today's matter of public importance, it's very important to set the scene. We need to understand properly what the state of Australia's detention network was when the Howard government lost office in 2007, and then look at what the state of the detention network is in March 2011 under the Rudd and the Gillard governments. These are the facts. When the Howard government lost office, there were only 4 people who had arrived illegally by boat who were in detention in Australia. 4 people. Now let's compare that to March 2011 under what is now the Gillard Labor government. Today, that figure is more than 6,300 people, and that includes more than 1,000 children.
The ones in the forest.
The annual budget under the Labor government has increased 7-fold since Labor came to power. That's the Australian taxpayers' money that is being utilised to pay for Labor's policy failings. There has been a total budget blowout of over $1 billion. That is $1 billion of taxpayers' money that this government has underestimated in forecasting the number of asylum seekers who would come to Australia under their policies. Of the more than 10,000 people that have now turned up by boat since this government came into power, only 160 have been returned to their countries of origin. So when considering the Labor government's border protection policy, this is what Australians are now faced with. Christmas Island is beyond capacity. It is so beyond capacity that the AFP have requested that the port be closed because they cannot afford to have any more people coming to the island. The Labor Party are now opening detention centre after detention centre after detention centre on the mainland without any consultation with the communities that are going to be affected. We all know that universal offshore processing is now history, and we know that because the Labor government's new policy as of yesterday is to ensure that the boats don't go to Christmas Island and they are brought directly to the mainland. We have detainees who are escaping from detention centres on Christmas Island, and when you actually say to the minister how many have not been accounted for, how many are still on the loose in Christmas Island, the minister stands in this place, the minister representing, and says, quite frankly, he doesn't know. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the minister actually cares either. That is an absolute disgrace. And when questioned about the government's failure when it comes to our border protection policies, the government tries to counter their failures with a massive spin. We all saw the advertisement on page 28 of yesterday's Australian by the Department of Immigration and Citizenship, and what was it doing? It was seeking applications for an additional 6 public affairs and media officers paying between $56,000 and $117,000 a year. I have to say, it would be laughable if it was not true. When will those on the other side understand that in relation to policy failures of this magnitude, you cannot spin your way out of it? And talking of spin, what did the minister say last Thursday? Following a night of rioting by some asylum seekers at Christmas Island, this is what Minister Bowen comes out with. The situation on Christmas Island is calm. Don't know necessarily if the Christmas Island residents will actually agree with Minister Bowen. And then after another night of rioting, this is what the minister then said. At no stage during the week have I underplayed the seriousness of the situation. Well, we all know that those words have now come back to bite him. But then, of course, we have the statement by the Prime Minister, who was in complete, total and utter damage control when the Prime Minister said the situation at Christmas Island is under control. Well, let's have a look at the situation at Christmas Island. We had the use of tear gas and beanbag rounds, we had mass breakouts, we had fires, we had rock throwing and we had protests. And we still have detainees that are potentially on the loose in Christmas Island. And that is the definition, under a Labor government, of a situation that is under control. That is an absolute indictment on those opposite, that they would dare to say to the people of Australia, and in particular to the people of Christmas Island, that that is a situation that is under control. But then the minister couldn't help himself. He went further and he said, I take responsibility for it, and I take responsibility for making sure the situation is under control going forward. Well, if the minister is going to put his money where his mouth is, if the minister is actually going to live up to this so-called responsibility that he says is his alone, then the minister needs to stand before the Australian people and actually have the guts to admit to them that under the Labor government there has been a complete, total and utter breakdown of border protection policy. But we all know the minister doesn't have those guts. The minister doesn't have the guts to actually stand before the Australian people and actually admit that under this government Australia's borders are no longer secure. And I was reading a comment from the Christmas Island community leader, Kane Martin, who probably would like to speak with Minister Bowen in relation to his statements that the situation is calm and under control, because this is what Kane Martin says. People are locking their doors. People are locking their cars. Now, while this may seem a small thing on the mainland, this is especially the core. It is essentially the core of what it is to be a Christmas Islander. It is to have that sense of freedom, to have that sense of safety, and to have that sense of community all around us. And it's been certainly challenged at every level. That is an absolute disgrace. That is an absolute disgrace, and it is the sole fault of the Gillard Labor government. And the bad news for Australians is that this is a situation that need never have occurred. And I go back to what was the situation in 2007 when the Howard government lost office. Those on the other side are very quick to throw statistics at us and say, but under your watch you had thousands arriving. And you know what? Yes, we did. You're right. Yes, we did. But unlike those on the other side, we had the guts, we had the stomach to actually stand up and make some very, very tough policy decisions. And once we'd made those decisions, we had the guts and the stomach to actually stand by those decisions. And we all know what the result of those decisions were. It is a statistical reality that the boat stopped coming. And that is something that those on the other side cannot deny. It is also a reality that when those on the other side decided to wind back the Howard government's strong border protection measures, the boats started coming again. There is only one way forward. There is only one way forward, and that is for those on the other side, that is for the minister to realise, to stand up, to have some guts and to re-adopt the Howard government's strong border protection policies. Because despite the Prime Minister's pathetic protestations, Australia's borders are not safe, as at the 4th of February 2011, there were 6,659 people in immigration detention. This is an appalling record and continues to confirm that Gillard Labor is failing to protect Australia's borders.